international finance under SSLG, groups came up again.
Yep.
They appeared not to have any peer marking, but apparently there was clear guidelines on how to deal with what you would call non-contributors. Why do you think they missed out on that, and that they were not complained but brought it up at the meeting?
I think this is an age-old one. Peer marking is either considered by some people to be the real way of trying to deal with things, and it's a fabulous thing, or it's considered to be the worst thing in the world. And when you introduce it, we try to introduce it in the earlier years, because we think that to begin with, you're learning the skills of working with others. And if you think about the skills of working with others, you have to be able to time manage, and you have to negotiate, you have to take on tasks perhaps that aren't yours because someone else isn't contributing as much as perhaps they should. You have to learn when to do that, learn when to sit back, learn when to speak, learn when to keep your mouth shut. It's all about working with others in a way that would work in a work environment. However, peer assessment, we in the first few years will introduce that because we recognise there's going to be problems, and as you're learning, you would want to try and readdress some of those problems. In fourth year though, we do have it in parts, but we remove it in other parts, because we want you to face all of those particular skill requirements that you get in the workplace. What we do have though is we have guidelines which are set out on when you've got free riders. So for example, if you get someone that doesn't take part at all, and you're advising the lecturer on that, the lecturer will have to make a decision on whether or not that individual gets the mark of the group or gets nothing. Or in some cases, a reduced mark based on that. Now sometimes that will come because we get presentations, and the presentations which a lot of people don't like, and I have to tell you, if you want to work in the accountancy industry, if you think you can get away without doing presentations, forget it. But a lot of people don't like doing presentations, but one reason for doing presentations is to gauge whether someone has actually been taking part within the group performance as well.
Because it shows the cracks.
It does, absolutely, because it can easily ask a question. If that person has no idea about that particular topic, and yet that's what they wrote about, that doesn't make sense. So we can pick up on these things. It's not a perfect science, and occasionally I'm sure someone will slip through the net, but what usually happens in the workplace is if you've got a group of 5 people who are given a task to do something for an employer, someone doesn't contribute, they don't then go snitching to the boss, because the boss just says, nothing to do with me, I told you to get on with it, get it done. What will happen is the rest of the group will get the work done and present it as a group. Now, it might create problems in that little group and how they'd interact as a social group, but as a work group, they have to get it done. So what we're doing is we are giving you and putting you through hell in order to get you those particular requirements and tasks and skills that you need for the workplace. And trust me, you will thank us for it in years to come. You may not like us at the moment.
It's a survival basically.
It is very much a survival basis. Really,
so talking of survival, very important year this year, and it's your honours year and it's your dissertation year. And it's quite interesting to see the start, the middle and the end of the journey each year. We see the same, the same pattern, and the panic, and then the sense of relief when they hand in that two bound copies into the office. But one of the things that's come up last year is that students feel that they would like separate qualitative and quantitative research method classes. Is there any sort of update on that? Is that something that you're thinking of doing? If not, why not? If you are, what are we doing about it?
Well, first of all, I think that's a very good question. First of all, and that sounds like a politician, doesn't it? That's a very good question, so I'm going to answer a different question. But I'm not, I'm going to answer the right question. Qualitative and quantitative are not separate topics. They are subtopics within a topic, which is research. What we do in third year is we have a research methods class, which we introduced the year before last for the first time for accountants. And we did that on the basis of feedback we were getting from accountants year after year after year, that the research methods classes were not suitable for accountants. And the reason they weren't suitable was that it was a general business discussion and people who were teaching it couldn't give examples from an accounting background. So we now offer our own research methods class in third year. Now in that particular class, there are 2 sessions specifically which are set out for the quantitative methods. Now in accounting, it's a social science really we're doing, so therefore quantitative is not as important as the qualitative. So we spend a lot of time on the qualitative methods. If you come in third year though, as a direct entrant, you don't get that class. And I think that's where some people might feel as if they've got a little bit of a disadvantage. So what we did last year and we've done again this year is we've introduced very early on classes specifically for that, where they are timetabled but they are not compulsory. So students take advantage of it if they wish to come along. Now, in those circumstances, that means that all of our direct entrants, who are the ones that we aim this at, we would normally expect them to come along to these classes, but we also allow anyone who's not a direct entrant who's been before to come back for a refresher. So those have been available, and in there has been discussion and coverage of qualitative and quantitative.
And it's quite separate.
It is. And we've got Qualtrics now.
Of course.
The new,
do you like a good Qualtrics?
The new question survey software material which we have available, which is phenomenal.
Oh, the data analysis, isn't it? It's amazing.
But it takes away a lot of the need to be able to really understand the qualitative stuff, the quantitative stuff rather. So it does much of it for you, and what you're doing is interpreting it, and it pretty much signposts it. So really, from an accounting point of view, the numbers are less important to us than the qualitative. It's how you explain the information that's important. So we've made a good lot of inroads in the last couple of years to changing things for particularly the accounting and finance experience when it comes to research. And I think it's working really well. I can say that because what we have seen is a massive increase in the pass rates for the dissertation. I don't mean that we're going from lots of fails. What I mean is we're going much higher into 2-1s and firsts than we ever did in the past. Last year we had our biggest cohort of first class honours and 2-1s, and I think only for the first time ever we managed to just get one person who got a third. And that was just absolutely superb last year.
That is amazing, isn't it? So that was a big round of applause for all those hard-working students and
absolutely.
Staff as well.
The students last year were phenomenal.
And that in itself, Stephen, shows that when students do bring it up, you have actually not just heard it, but you've actually listened and actioned on it, and now we've got the evidence to show that
we
it's
do
working.
that, and I think this is something which maybe not everyone realises. We have our SSLGs, for example, the Student Staff Liaison Groups. The minutes for that are taken in every single meeting. They're sent out to the student reps before they're actually approved, and before they're given the chance to approve them, the actions that have been taken are added to those minutes so the students can see what's been done. And every one of you has access to them. They're on the Moodle information site.
On the Moodle site?
The Moodle information site. So for the past 5 years, all the minutes are there for every single cohort. So you can see Paisley, Hamilton, Ayr, South Lanarkshire College, all there for the past 5 years, and see not only what was discussed, but how it was actioned and taken forward. And your reps can vouch for that. They will tell you that that's done, and it's done very quickly.
And going back to that Moodle site, there's all sorts on it, isn't there?
Yep.
There's all sorts of information, frequently asked questions, that sort of thing. Off the top of your head, and I'm putting you in the spotlight here, do students use it frequently?
Not as much as I'd like them to.
Okay.
Now, the information site is important because it provides not only the information about your student reps and the minutes to those particular meetings, but it also provides you with your personal tutor details. Now, quite often we have people in the first few months saying, I don't know who my personal tutor is. Firstly, the details are on your banner site, but we also have them specifically on the information site, which sets out every single name that's attached to that. We also have, though, a list of extra resources for you, so essay writing skills, academic report writing skills, referencing skills, they're all there. They're also on the Moodle site under the library tab as well, so you can find information on how to research for articles, how to get reference information, how to cite and how to reference properly. And very importantly, there's about 19 frequently asked questions, and I guarantee I'll get them again asked to me regularly, which include things which are relevant to honours level. For example, what exemptions do I get from the professional bodies? Or it might be, what do I have to do to get a 2-1 or a 2-2? The guidelines and the explanations are there. So it's easy to go on and find out what those actually are without necessarily having to come back to the programme leader or to some of my colleagues constantly. And I'll use the word constantly because it happens all the time. So it'd be quite nice if that could be the first place to look before coming for the information.
Okay, that's great. So moving on, we've talked about dissertation as well. Another wee module that we talk about is the application of accounting. Last year, I think it was last year, Stephen, there was a wee bit of a clash of the presentation dates and the submission dates for the dissertation.
Yeah.
Now, we know how important a dissertation is. It's the be-all and end-all. It's what they all focus towards. It's the cherry on the top of the
Absolutely.
cake.
Yep.
Have you and your team, your programme team, looked at the submission date for dissertations and assessments?
Yes, we have, but we've done it, so far we've done it for the first trimester. We still have to do it for the second trimester. But just to put everyone's mind at rest, this was raised last year and we did change the submission dates, the presentation dates, so that there wasn't a clash, and we would make sure that doesn't happen again. We haven't done it for second trimester yet because we haven't got everything formalised for second trimester. In that we still haven't got all our rooms as such in place that we're sure about yet. Part of that comes down to room sizes, and we might have to make some changes in the second trimester. But one of the things we will do at the start of the trimester is look to see when the submission dates will be to make sure we don't end up with any clashes. But if anything does let that happen, contact your immediate person in front of you, in other words your class tutor, and tell them about it, and they will take action and probably contact me to get it fixed.
Flag it up.
Yeah, but we will deal with that. You will not be asked to do everything at one time.
Oh, that's great, that's great. Some other areas that came up are students, you don't like getting out of your bed, do you?
Is this the 9 o'clock start?
This is the 9 o'clock
Yes,
start.
yes.
Bleary-eyed on a Monday morning. Why do we still have 9 o'clock lectures?
Why do we not have 9 o'clock lectures? Now I have to say, what's the working week?
Well, mine starts at 8 in the morning. And I used to have to get to all sorts of places.
I'm not going to sound very sympathetic here. I have to say, I understand that people have got kids and there's arrangements that can be made that we can allow people to come in a bit later if that's the case. But the working week for the majority doesn't start at 10 o'clock. It doesn't start at 10 o'clock. It starts at 9 o'clock. It starts at 8:30. It starts at 8. And I'm afraid you're not going to have a professional career if you're not going to be able to turn up on time, because employers will not wash that. So what we have is we have a working week, and again we have this issue, and it maybe go beyond the 9 o'clock slot, where we have students that say we don't like 9 o'clock, and others that say, oh, I don't want to be here at 5 o'clock. Well, for most people it's a 35 to 37 hour working week, and when you come to university it's a full-time course for most of you. Part-time students, you're exempt from this. But if you're a full-time student, you're signing up to a 9 to 5, 5-day a week. And if that means that there's a tutorial at 4 o'clock in the afternoon lasting to 5, that's what you may be timetabled for. We will listen to people who've got specific issues, and we will try as much as possible to cater for that. But we have 600 accounting students. We cannot cater for everyone's individual needs, and if that need is an extra hour of bed in the morning, that's not a need. That's a problem you have to try and deal with. There's a difference. So my sympathy is limited, but it will be there where people actually need it. We don't ignore everyone's individual needs.
I was in a meeting with Stephen in the SSLG just yesterday, and it was quite interesting. And I've been a student here myself, did my degree, my honours, my masters, and I liked that he's thinking. We're talking about the late tutorial groups, you know, like I have to go into the 4 o'clock slot. But what is it you said was really, really good? What was the big advantage of it?
I'll come to that just before I do that, because that is an interesting point, because one of the things we hear a lot is I've got a lecture at 9 till 11 and my tutorial's not till 3. What am I going to do for 4 hours? Well, there's a thing called a library. There's also facilities everywhere around the university where you can be doing your tutorial work, you can be preparing for the next class, you can be writing up your notes, you can be having a drink with your pals, a coffee or whatever it is in the student union. I'm not going to ask any questions, but you could be doing things during the day while you're at university to take advantage of what the university actually offers. Many people turn up and think, well, I'll do the 11 till 12 tutorial, that gives me 12 o'clock, I'm finished, I'm off for the day. It's not a good experience that at university if you're not taking advantage of what's available to you. But back to Jane's point, I think it's an important point, because a lot of people don't want the 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock tutorial. They jump for the 11, they jump for the 12, sometimes they jump into the 11 or 12 even though they're not supposed to be there.
Really?
Oh yeah. And the 4 o'clock tutorial ends up being particularly quiet, but actually that's the time to get one-to-one attention. Now, we had a couple of mentions yesterday at the SSLG, which I think were very relevant, that some of the tutorials are fairly sizable, and therefore the tutor doesn't always get to everyone. In the 45 slot, you can guarantee they get to everyone, not once.
4 or 5 times.
Absolutely. So I think that's really important. The early tutorials and the late tutorials are the ones where you will get the best attention and the best opportunity to learn. And it's the tutorials where you learn. The lectures are giving you information. Tutorials help you learn.
Okay.